atu koutou, ko harama nei i te timatanga o tēnei ata, i te whakarongo ki e te aku mahi, nā mai, haere mai. It's lovely to see you here this morning, and I'm trying to set a precedent here. Everybody has to get up and listen to 20 minutes worth of poetry before they go to work. So I think I started off with this. It looks a bit like a pear, but it's a gourd and it's a nose flute. And in my tribe, when we play this, it's a symbol of peace, or we play it for peaceful purposes. The story was, or is, that if you're at war, you can't get up in the morning and go to work because you have to get up and go to war. But in times of peace, you can get up and do your work. And in times of peace, the ancient Māori would get up and they would go to hunt the pigeon. And they take this with them and make this sound. That's the sound of the kiruru, the native pigeon. And that would attract, or I'm told it attracted the female, and they would kill the female, and of course the male sticks around, flies round and round looking for the female, so they get the male as well. So times of peace were good for everybody except the pigeon. I'm going to read these next two poems because I only wrote them yesterday. And before I begin this one, there's been some things going on around here. I did say at the beginning of this conference that any Pākehā that came and tried their Māori out on me would get a hug. I'm extending that to Māori people as well. We're going to do with a few hugs. There's been a few other things going on. I've had a lot of people rush up to me on the lift and start chatting away to me in Māori. So we've been told in the lifts hugging each other. And there's actually a few tricky Pākehās around who've cottoned on to the fact that if they come up to me and say kia ora, they get a hug. So I'm going to lift the bar a bit. It has to be a sentence. Okay, and I'll start off with this poem called Kia ora. Kia ora, 'tis a beauteous sound. Kia ora, 2 words. Kia ora, good health. Kia ora, thank you. Kia ora, bro. Kia ora, cuz. The best way to begin. Kia ora. Kia ora. I was inspired by the conference, just being here actually, to write this poem, fairly short poem. It's called It's All Right. 'Tis a blessing to be still, to sit beside the fire with a good book and move 1,000,000 miles. And I'm dedicating that poem to the LIANZA conference. With a sprinkling of stars. She writes poetry as only the muse can write. When she smiles, she melts the heart of God. I'm from Te Arawa, she says. She shows me her litany of scars. They climb like ladders up the insides of her wrists. Deep, savage, cuts to the bone. Speak of her youth and the countless times she sent herself along the path of the spirits and sought the souls of Hineni Te Po. Like her tipuna Hinenua, she swam the lake, but her lake was of fire and death, broken bottles, drunken fights, smashed families, shattered and scattered whānau. And she made it. She crossed the troubled waters and found her tāne who loves her more deeply than the heart can tell. In the lost city they raise many fine young children with aroha. What prompted me to write that poem was the fact that I was at a poetry reading in Auckland, and a young Māori poet came up to me and told me her life story, and that was her life story. And she was from the Te Arawa canoe. People think that Te Arawa is a tribe, but Te Arawa is not a tribe. It's a confederation of 8 different tribes. But because she was from the Te Arawa canoe, her ancestress was Hinemoa, a Māori princess who, before the arrival of the Pākehā, fell in love with a young man who lived on an island in the middle of a lake. And her father would not let her marry this man because Hinemoa was of high birth, and her father considered the man to be of low birth, but she swam across the lake to be with her lover Tutanekai. And because this young woman was a descendant of those people, I called that poem Hinemoa's Daughter. Now, I've tried to include in the few poems that I'm reading today, poems that had something to do with libraries, either that I either wrote them in a library or I got a book out from the library, and the book inspired me to write a poem. And I read this poem yesterday, but I think I'll read it again. It's one of my latest ones, and it seems to be growing legs. People seem to like it. Rat-a-tat-tat, who's that knocking? Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, it's Machine Gun Johnny. Chat-a-chat-chat, chat-a-chat-chat, sweeping the field. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, looking for the boy in a man-sized hat. For a chat-a-chat-chat, chat-a-chat-chat, for empire, adventure and all that. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, the bullets spat from the nostrils of the gun. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, mothers weep, there lies your son. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, 16 years old, fancy that. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, freedom's not cheap. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, do you remember? Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, who's that knocking? Rat-a-tat-tat, chat-a-chat-chat. The inspiration was I read a book, I can't remember the name of the book or who wrote it, but it was about the number of recruits who signed up to go and fight in Europe in the First World War from England who were below the age of 16. I think there's over 10,000 of them, and bullets don't really give a damn how old you are, and many of those young boys never came back. And I think it's so terribly sad that young boys, many of them the age of 12 and 14, really never got a chance to live. And the other thing that I thought that was sad about it is that the people who signed these young boys up to go away and fight very frequently knew that these young guys were only 14 or so because they didn't have any facial hair and their voices hadn't changed. But they still signed them up, probably to go and fight for the empire, but also because they got paid £5 for every person they signed up. I thought that was sad and rather evil. So there are some information that I found in the library. Made it into a poem. Oops. Right. This is another poem that I wrote in the Wellington Library in 1979. It was one of the first poems I ever wrote. And I thought at that stage, I was about 20 or something like that, that I wanted to make my career that of a poet. And that if I just wrote things about New Zealand, nobody would know what the heck I was talking about. So I thought, you better pick on something that everybody knows about and write about that. So I decided to write a poem about Napoleon Bonaparte. Everyone knows about Napoleon. I was sleeping down at the Basin Reserve a lot of the time in those days and nights, and it was in the middle of the winter. So what I'd do is, as soon as the library opened up, Wellington Library opened up, I'd slip in there because they had heaters, and I'd get up, snuggle up with the heaters and try and write this poem about Napoleon Bonaparte. And here it is. I ended up, must have been something in the library because I didn't write a poem about Napoleon Bonaparte in the end. I spent about a week sitting in the library trying to write this poem, and came up with a poem about a seagull. He flew high above the sea. Within the circle of his arms, the world was small. Horizon to horizon, all oceans yielded to his beak. Now the hourglass turns, his wings clipped by hands of time. He awaits winds that will not blow. Waves wash over him, add salt to his body. The sea comes hungry to the shore, and he is a morsel on a table of sand. And it took me a while to work out how I got from Napoleon Bonaparte to a seagull. But after looking at the poem, I realized I really wasn't that interested in writing about Napoleon Bonaparte. It was how things start from nothing and rise to greatness, like Napoleon, born in Corsica, rising up to be the emperor of most of Europe, and then dying a lonely mad old man on an island. And the story is told in The Seagull, how it rises up and flies, horizon to horizon, all worlds yield to his beak. So I had to chip away at it to find what I really wanted to write. Shortly after writing that poem in the Wellington Library, I found myself down in the night cells, and from there off to another institution. I wasn't a bad person, I had a lot of art in me and was hard to control. And I ended up in some strange places, but then I was in the night cells and got shipped off somewhere else, and I wrote this poem. And I wrote it in about 10 minutes. And then when I wrote it, I didn't think much of it, so I screwed it up and threw it away. And when I got out of this place, my friend, another poet, Rory Hubbard, said, "We're going to go and do a reading at Poems from North Girls High, would you like to come?" So I went. When I went to Poems from North Girls High, I was only about 21. We had an hour to speak to a school of about 500 young schoolgirls, and my friend Rory Hubbard, he got up and read 2 poems, which left me about 58 minutes to develop. I was only 21, I'd only written 3 poems, and so I read them and I just didn't know what to do, and this poem I'm about to read, I must have had a spare copy of it, fell out of the back of my book and onto the floor, and I read it. And I learned that I have to, and it was a big hit. Then I went to another reading at the Dallas Art Gallery. It said, "All people who want to read the poetry, welcome." So I turned up there and knocked on the door, and the woman wouldn't let me in. I said, "Well, the posters say everybody wants to read their poetry, welcome." And she said, "Well, no, you can't come in," so and shut the door on me. So I ran around the other side of the gallery and kicked the door down, and ran into I did kick it, and we ran into the gallery, and I blasted this poem out. I thought, "I'll teach you and your bloody cucumber sandwiches. You listen to this." And I ran it out, and as everybody was looking at the door, they went, turned around, and that's what I learned. Sometimes when you're young, if you want to be heard, you have to yell. "Jihad, load the order," I cried. "Cooper, break out, Rory, Totoki and Toroparaha." I saw then grim death and wooden ghosts carved on the meeting house wall. In the only line I knew I called, "Jihad, load the order." Above me, that tickle raged. He ripped his tongue from his mouth and threw it at my feet. Then I spoke. "My name is To the Freezing Worker. Mountain DB is my tribe. The pump is my Malay. My fist is my Taiaha. Jail is my home. To I cried. They understood, the tickle and the ghosts, though I said nothing but to the order. For that's all I knew. So the line of that poem was a bit like a haka, but I've written it in English. And I think it works because it's got pain, it's got hurt, it's got healing, it's got distraction, it's got pride, it's got loss of pride, victory and loss, all these things in one poem. And I think that's why it works. It's quite funny. Well, it's not that funny if you happen to be me. But I live in Paikakariki, and to this day, most of the time can't even afford to catch the train into town. But every 3 or 4 years, I ended up touring all the way around Europe, reading my poetry and being treated like a king. There's not much wine left in Europe when I come back. But I was travelling through Germany and I met a young person who was very sick. So I thought I'd try and make my words work, do something proper, real. And I wrote this poem to help this young woman, and the poem did help her. It's called Lady Anorexia. Sister, thou dost not need makeup. Thou art already well made by thy maker. Thy lips are beauty as art thou more beautiful than the heart can tell. Thou art special. There is no other like thee. Thy body and thy soul is a gift to be praised and loved. Thy body is thy garden to tend and care for. Thy soul is a singing bird. Let it sing. Listen not to those who say, thou must be this, or thou must be that, or thou must have blonde hair, blue eyes, a heart-shaped ass, and tits like a cow. But small dreams are these, of small men, with small fantasies. Smash the chains they make for thee. The rich cat grows fat, whilst thou grows thinner than air. Eat and be well, as thy maker loves thee and intended thee to be. Words are such wondrous things. I turn them into darts and I give them wings. I'm going to try and get this one down the back somehow. No? Well, they just go where they're meant to go. Hello. My whare has got many arms and many tongues. It's full of stories carved on wood, inscribed in spirals of kōwhaiwhai, woven in tukutuku from pīnao and kiakia and harakeke. My whare has a heart, backbone and ribs. It's my ancestral house. It is my home. I love it here. My whare, when it fills with people, rumbles, babbles, farts, sleeps, snores, mumbles, whispers, laughs, argues, cries, kisses, hugs, plays, and strums guitars at 2 o'clock in the morning. It tells stories I roto I te reo ramatira. On the insides of the roof, the dream tellers have placed ngā pura whetu, the myriads of stars, to remind me of the beauty of Ranginui, the Sky Father, at night, before I sleep on the puku of Papatūānuku. mucky roads. Roads in Taramaki zigzag and snake their way through the bitter earth. They seldom run straight. Road makers paid compensation only when they ran the roads through Pākehā land. They didn't have to pay if they ran their roads through the tattered remnants of Pākehā land. Hence roads crazily zigzag and snake their way throughout the province. The moral of this poem is, my friends, the road is never straight. I wrote this poem when I was in Germany, and I was invited to go to a concentration camp. And a lot of people in my group decided they didn't want to go. It's a too nasty place to go. But I thought, I'm a poet, I need to go. And you can go to the gates of paradise and try and write your poetry there, but to be a full, complete poet, you have to go to the gates of hell as well and sit down there and write some poems. And this one came from the gates of hell. So this was Dachau. Oh, my friend Wolfgang weeps as we walk up the road to Dachau. You are proud of your ancestors. How can I be proud of mine? My father was a Nazi. We fought over the dinner table. We've not spoken for 20 years. Brother Wolfgang weeps. I've never been able to visit the camps. I've lived there all my life. His karma to the dead rises up into the dull grey sky as we walk up the road to Dachau on the corpses of 6 million dead Jews. Wawa Pakuda. Footprints of the swamp hen, weaving pattern, tuku-tuku, across the crisscross patterns woven into the panels of the house, where the swamp hen presses its tracks into the mud forever, leaving imprints, tracks of red toes in the ooze, where the flax weaver's dreams of the people are woven into the wharetipuna between the ancestors who dance with the stars. Sometimes if you go into a traditional Māori meeting house, you see two little marks, or a series of them, little red cross marks. They look like birds' feet, and that's Wawa Pakuda, that's the footprints of the swamp hen. And when I looked at them, and it took me on that journey through the house, and I wrote that poem. So, finish with one last one, and then I better get off. Spring. Spring, where do you come from, where do you go? I am like a bud on a tree that will live, wither, and never know. Softly falls of light. Softly falls of light. Soft light falls of leaf. Leaf soft, light falls. Light soft, leaf falls. Light falls, leaf soft. Light, light, light. Softly falls of light. Pepe tuna, ke hua kākariki. Wairua te pō, moi koe te awaktoa, e koe te pō. Papaki mai o paruro, re ai. Ghost moth, great green ghost moth, spirit of the night. You sleep during the day and rise in the dark. Flap, flap, flap your wings. Fly, fly away. The fluttering moth flaps its wings, then flies away, free at last. Thank you. I better get off and then come back on as an MC. And before I do that, as you, my manager, who is also my wife, has asked me to once again, if you want to buy my books, they're down here. Thank you.
I'll just sit over here.
It's a gift for you at the end, which I'll present to you on stage.
Right, thank you.
What I'll do is I'll take your time, you sit there, and then once you are talking, I'll move to that position. Does that seem sensible?
Okay, let's start. The slides will appear.
It's actually like that. Actually, they've been pretty good so far.
Yeah.
Do you know how to move the slides on?
Yeah, it's just that thing. I think just click next or something.
Rough idea of when you might talk about?
I suppose about 35, 40 maybe.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And so there'll be a bit of time for questions. I seem to have had questions after keynotes when there's more time. Should be.
Okay.
Mōrena e hoa mā, pāna te kite ati a koutou, ko haere mai nei mo tēnei rangi tuarua o tēnei hui, nau mai haere mai ki te timatanga o tēnei rā. Greetings, it's lovely to see you today, second day of our hui, and I think I'll just start off by getting through some business matters and then hand the floor over. I've been asked to remind chair people that the sessions need to be wrapped up 5 minutes prior to the end of session to give people time to move to the next lecture. So if chair people keep an eye on the time and wrap the sessions up or try and get them finished 5 minutes before the end of the session so people can move on. Please visit all exhibition stands in the town hall and run-off foyer and go in the draw to win an iPad too. Put your line in to win. It's free. Come on. 2 other opportunities to win prizes. APLM raffle, buy tickets at the LIANZA stand. The 3M VAR prize to celebrate the 15th anniversary anniversary of sponsorship of the LIANZA Excellence and Innovation Award, 3M are offering you the chance to win a trip to Vala 2012. 3M is committed to supporting the career development of people working within the library sector of New Zealand. To commemorate the 15th anniversary of LIANZA sponsorship, 3M are pleased to offer you the chance to win one of two trips to Vala 2012, 10th to the 12th of February 2012, the region's premier library technology conference in this region. Prize includes one adult return flight to the Vala conference in Melbourne, Auckland, Wellington or Christchurch flights to be arranged by 3M, a welcome dinner hosted by 3M, conference registration, 3 nights accommodation in Melbourne, and attendance at the conference dinner is 3M's guest. Sounds so good, I'm trying to figure out how I can get myself there. I'll become a librarian and get there somehow. Visit the 3M exhibition, stand to register and complete or hand in your official entry form before 5 p.m. Tuesday to be in for the draw. The trips will be drawn on Wednesday morning, 8:45 a.m. in the main conference auditorium. You must be there to claim your prize. I'll say that again. The trips will be drawn on Wednesday morning, 8:45 a.m. in the main conference auditorium. You must be there to claim your prize. Now, we've had a celebration of Kiwiana being held at the new Wharawaka on Taranaki Wharf from 7 p.m. till late. I've been asked to remind you, feel free to wear aspects of Kiwiana. I said that to my dear wife Prue, and she said, well, I am a Kiwi, so it just goes me. So the only thing I can think of, I'm going to wear this. So, bit of fun, and look forward to seeing you there. Library tours depart from the front of the Michael Fowler Centre. Don't be late. Library tours depart from the front of the Michael Fowler Centre. Don't be late. It's now my pleasure to start the day off by introducing Chairperson Ronald Milne for the 5th Keynote.
Atamare, kia ora koutou. It's always a delight to welcome to a library conference someone who's not a librarian, but who works in a cognate profession. They can, in my experience, bring views from their part of the cultural sector which are somewhat different to our own, and ultimately prove to stimulate thinking and debate within our own profession. So I'm particularly pleased to introduce Michael Houlihan, who's been Chief Executive of Te Papa since August 2010. Mike's had a varied and distinguished career. Perhaps unsurprisingly, as a military historian with an interest in the experience of British soldiers on the Western Front, he started working life at the Imperial War Museum in London. He subsequently held posts at the Houlihan Museum, also in London. That museum specialises in anthropology, natural history, and musical instruments. In 1998, he moved to a challenging post as the first chief executive of the newly created National Museums and Galleries of Northern Ireland, where he steered the merger of Northern Ireland's 3 government-funded museums. It was on then to Wales to become Director General of the National Museum of Wales, which is a family of 7 museums illustrating the history, industries, and natural environment of Wales. They also hold important collections of international art. You would have thought that London, Ireland, Wales, next it must be Scotland. But instead he crossed the oceans to be with us here in New Zealand, where his considerable and varied experience is standing in very good stead. Mike's going to reflect on his first year as Chief Executive of Te Papa and address the challenging topic of managing transformation. Michael.
Mai hanamai, koutou tu manako, he hui pai tene. Good morning. I'd like to begin first by thanking Ron, but most particularly my mum for writing that introduction. It was really good. It's actually great to have an audience. When I was working in Northern Ireland, actually just sort of reminds me, because of my military history interests, one half of the community were quite interested in it. And so I was invited to go down and talk, actually across the border, near Drogheda in the south, or the Republic, and go and talk at an Orange Lodge about the Battle of the Somme. And it was a beautiful summer's evening, and just drove down from Belfast, but I had to go through South Armagh, which was affectionately known to the British Army as Indian country. And, you know, I think probably with my name, Michael Patrick Houlihan, I would probably been all right if I'd been stopped by the other side. The trouble was, the minute I opened my mouth, I'd have problems. So anyway, I eventually found this place, very remote, and a very nice lady came out to meet me, and she said, "Oh, it's great that you're here. Can I help you set up?" and all that sort of thing. The usual thing you get at these conferences and so on. And anyway, we got set up and sat there for a while, and it was just me and herself. And it was sort of getting on a bit, and I thought, well, really, I've got to get back. I don't want to be driving through South Armagh at night. And so I said, look, I've got to give this lecture. So anyway, I gave the lecture on the Battle of the Somme, and finished up, and that she asked a few questions at the end. And then I started packing up and said, right, I've got to head off now. And she said, well, actually, could you stay for a little bit longer? And I thought, well, why do you want me to stay for a little bit longer? She said, well, see, the problem is I'm the other speaker. So it's great to see so many people here. Right, we've got to... Okay, what I want to do, gave you a little piece of rubbish earlier on. What I want to do is illustrate the power of transformation. And this is sort of, what I'm going to invite Sue to do is just hand around this, and hopefully as many of you can get to see it, because I'm going to ask you questions at the end about it. So I'm looking for a really good curator. So we'll just hand this around, and then towards the end, we'll just sort of get an identification. Actually, you can take it out of the envelope and just pass it around. I would like it back at the end, though, because it's a very powerful piece. But I'm looking for an identification. Okay, while you're engaged in that. I was really interested by the title of this series, well, this particular conference, about people, power, and passion. And I think it reflects for both museums and libraries. And sort of taking it a step further, one of the challenges that I think we face, and I think is reflected in the way in which you're presenting this conference, is about how do we actually go about changing hearts, changing minds, and most importantly, changing lives. Now, for museums, public museums, we actually come out of a social engineering background. And if you look at the origins of museums,